The Digital Alter, a psychological thesis on malignant narcissism and psychotic features in live streaming, a case study of pathological digital persona. Thesis statement: the phenomenon of live streaming provides a uniquely fertile and low accountability environment for individuals exhibiting malignant narcissistic and psychotic features to construct and enforce elaborate delusional systems, such as the potato-verse, thereby enabling them to exert coercive control, rationalize abusive behaviors, and project internal pathology onto an audience, transforming personal pathology into a public performance of pseudo-spiritual authority. This environment further allows for the deliberate manipulation and withholding of information, perpetuating cycles of drama and gaslighting, and the problematic utilization of AI to reinforce delusions, ultimately leading to the self-detrimental consequences of unaddressed narcissistic pathology and an insatiable demand for constant validation. Introduction: the rise of live streaming platforms has created unprecedented avenues for communication, community building, and self-expression. However, these digital spaces can also become stages for the manifestation of severe psychological pathologies. This thesis will explore a compelling exemplar of malignant narcissistic personality disorder coupled with psychotic features in the online realm, focusing on a prominent streamer who creates and enforces a pseudo-spiritual belief system. By integrating the ideological framework of The Great Book of Potato, with detailed accounts of observed live stream behaviors and diagnostic profiles, this analysis will demonstrate how the affordances of live streaming exacerbate and enable the pathological grandiosity, lack of empathy, manipulative tactics, and delusional ideation characteristic of such a profile. The construction of a delusional system, the potato-verse, as a grandiose self-narrative. The individual's purported autobiography, The Great Book of Potato, serves as the foundational text for a meticulously constructed, self-referential delusional system, the potato-verse. This elaborate framework acts as a digital altar, positioning the individual as its central, divine figure. Grandiose identity and messiah complex, the individual explicitly presents himself as a potato of life, a sage, and even a son, in a new trinity, within this system. He overtly demands divine veneration and insists others bow to his every demand. This pathological grandiosity, a core feature of narcissistic personality disorder, is not merely self-aggrandizement, it is a core feature of his self-perception, where his life is portrayed as an epic saga, filled with miraculous feats, profound prophecies, and mystical experiences. Incorporation of pathological experiences into sacred truths, experiences indicative of psychotic disorder. Not otherwise specified, such as seeing sounds, feeling the wind behind walls, hearing people's thoughts, predictive dreams, healing abilities, and immunity to illness, are reframed within The Great Book of Potato as evidence of divine connection or prophetic insight. This process allows for the integration and rationalization of disordered perceptions into a seemingly coherent, spiritual narrative. Sacred hypocrisy, as a justification for contradiction, the ideological framework attempts to rationalize blatant contradictions, such as demanding worship while advocating simplicity and growth to the light. This sacred hypocrisy appears to be a sophisticated defense mechanism, characteristic of cluster B personality disorder, allowing the individual to maintain a facade of spiritual authority despite exhibiting behaviors antithetical to his stated philosophy. 2. The live stream as an enabling environment for pathological behavior. Live streaming platforms offer unique features that provide a low accountability, high reinforcement environment conducive to the expression and amplification of malignant narcissistic and psychotic pathology. The live stream itself becomes a digital altar where his grandiosity is actively reinforced. Direct worship and unchecked grandiosity, the interactive nature of live streaming enables the individual to overtly demand to be worshipped as a god and for viewers to bow to his every demand. This immediate gratification and absence of real-world social consequences provide constant positive reinforcement for his grandiose delusions, preventing reality testing. Insatiable need for validation and attention-seeking behaviors, when the primary source of validation, the live stream, fails to provide sufficient attention, the individual resorts to extreme measures. He spams his Discord chat with hundreds of messages about his need for love and acknowledgement and personally direct messages people to wake up and give him love and attention. This desperate pursuit of external validation highlights the fragile ego and core emptiness often seen in narcissistic and borderline personality disorders, where the digital audience becomes a necessary source of self-regulation. Enforcement of delusional system through banning and information control. The individual bans anyone who tries to tell him to get mental help or disagrees with his teachings. He removes any person who attempts to share the streamer's true nature, his underhanded lies, and his past misdeeds and illegal activities. He often utilizes personal information of his viewers that he received from sources such as a woman who manipulates men to gain their information. This woman then turns over this personal information, including personal photos, family information, etc. He also utilizes vulnerable photos of women as blackmail to ensure the woman will be subservient to his desires. This serves as a powerful mechanism to eliminate dissent, construct an echo chamber, and protect the fragility of his delusional system from external challenge, thereby strengthening his perceived authority. Furthermore, his tendency to withhold vital information, i.e. the truth of his own past history, from others in order to gaslight them from the reality or truth that he is presented with, and to forever deny the fact that he was in fact presented with the truth and chose to keep it away from his audience, is a core narcissistic manipulation tactic, reinforcing his control over the narrative and audience perception. When presented with evidence of the truth based on his own personal and public admission, the individual refuses to acknowledge this reality, often stating that the truth is made-up lies. Problematic AI utilization for delusion reinforcement. The individual's reliance on AI to reinforce his delusions and persecutory beliefs and to counter a viewer's arguments for seeking help or disengaging from the internet, highlights a critical dependence on artificial validation. By prompting AI to generate stories where he is always the hero or the victim, the individual further solidifies his grandiose and persecutory narratives, effectively using technology to co-create and protect his delusional system from reality testing. This behavior is exacerbated by his social, pragmatic, communication disorder and intellectual disability, making genuine human interaction and understanding more challenging, thus driving him towards AI for safe validation. Projection and paranoid delusions onto viewers. The live stream becomes a canvas for the individual's severe paranoid ideation, consistent with his psychotic disorder. He openly accuses viewers of being in the CIA or Mossad and of human trafficking him. This immediate, public accusation of malevolent intent from his audience is a direct manifestation of persecutory delusions, further cementing his distorted worldview. Exploitation and manipulation of the audience. Emotional transference and narrative appropriation. The individual's habit of taking abuse survivor stories of female online creators and saying these things happened to him as well, when in fact they did not happen to him, is a profound act of emotional exploitation and a common narcissistic maneuver to garner attention and victimhood status. This allows him to garner empathy and attention, positioning himself as a victim, while simultaneously diminishing the genuine trauma of actual survivors. Sexual coercion and humiliation. The alleged pattern of asking women for vulnerable pictures and then threatening to share them on his live stream and sharing them in his Discord group when they don't agree with him is a severe form of sexual coercion and public humiliation, aligning with his paraphilic disorder diagnoses of pedophilic disorder and exhibitionistic disorder. This directly contradicts any divine love or compassion professed in the Great Book of Potato, revealing a sadistic and controlling core to his interactions. Verbal aggression and impulsivity. The individual screams at the screen when he feels he isn't winning an argument, debate, and claims people are killing him spiritually, or they are spiritually raping him. This extreme verbal aggression, characteristic of his intermittent explosive disorder and disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, and hyperdramatization of perceived slight, serves to intimidate and silence opposition, creating a hostile environment that further isolates his audience to only those who comply. This is also linked to his ADHD, which can impact impulse control during arguments. The individual gets what seems to be hyper-excited to continue to make drama where drama does not need to belong. Normalization of deviant behavior. His jokes about anal rape, and how his viewers can live in his asshole demonstrate a disturbing level of sexual deviancy and a profound lack of boundaries. Introducing such content into a spiritual live stream further highlights the pathological nature of his control and disregard for the well-being of his audience. 3. The roots of pathology, a history of multifaceted disorders and unaccountability. The extensive list of mental health diagnoses, combined with the detailed background information, paints a comprehensive picture of severe and pervasive psychopathology underpinning the individual's behaviors and the construction of his potato-verse. Pervasive personality disorders, diagnoses of narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, cluster B personality disorder, and cluster C personality disorder explain the deeply ingrained patterns of grandiosity, lack of empathy, instability in relationships, fear of abandonment, manipulative tendencies, and an underlying sense of inadequacy that the individual projects onto others. Psychotic and delusional framework. The psychotic disorder, not otherwise specified diagnosis, directly supports the interpretation of his prophesies, miracles, and paranoid beliefs, CIA, Mossad, human trafficking, as part of a significant break from reality. This forms the very fabric of the potato-verse. Impulse control and emotional dysregulation, intermittent explosive disorder and disruptive mood dysregulation disorder clarify his episodes of extreme rage and aggression, such as screaming at the screen or physically assaulting others. These are further complicated by ADHD, which can impact executive functioning and impulse control, and generalized anxiety disorder, which can fuel his emotional intensity. Cognitive and communication impairments, an intellectual disability, IQ range 61 to 74, and social, pragmatic, communication disorder suggest difficulties in understanding social cues, the nuances of communication, and the impact of his behavior on others. This may contribute to his inability to see the logical inconsistencies in his demands for worship versus his philosophy of simplicity, or his inappropriate jokes. The major neurocognitive disorder further indicates significant cognitive impairments that may affect his judgment and perception of reality. Substance use disorders. Cannabis use, alcohol use, and tobacco use can exacerbate existing mental health conditions, particularly psychotic features and impulse control issues, and further impair judgment and emotional regulation. His psychedelic experience, in 2011, followed by his psychotic break, illustrates the vulnerability there. Early life unaccountability and reinforcement of entitlement, being raised in a wealthy family and never truly held accountable for his actions, particularly after abusing his little sister sexually, where his parents sent him to a boarding school instead of dealing with his actions, likely fostered a deep-seated sense of entitlement and a belief that he is exempt from consequences. His father often paid for legal representation for him, and this often resulted in him not facing legal consequences, with the exception of going to jail for threatening a politician. This early lack of accountability is a significant factor in the development and entrenchment of his malignant narcissistic and psychopathic traits. Pattern of abusive behavior. The documented history of sexually abusing his younger female step-sibling, as well as physically and emotionally abusing multiple women, such as when he bragged about cracking a woman's ribs when he kicked her to his live stream audience, abandoning his pregnant girlfriend when she talked to someone he didn't approve of, neglecting his parental responsibility for his daughter, threatening a politician, punching an old man in the face for asking him to leave a bar, and leaving a helpless kitten out in the cold, just to name a few of his significant documented abusiveness, demonstrates a consistent, escalating pattern of violence, cruelty, and a profound lack of empathy that spans his lifetime. These behaviors align directly with diagnostic criteria for psychopathy and antisocial personality traits, and are further supported by his paraphilic disorder diagnoses. Conclusion. This case study exemplifies the profound dangers when a severe constellation of psychological pathologies, including malignant narcissism, psychotic disorder, borderline personality disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, and paraphilic disorders, intersect with the unregulated landscape of live streaming. The potato-verse is not a benign eccentricity, but represents an elaborate delusional system born from deep-seated psychopathology and a history of unchecked abuse and lack of accountability. This system, actively enforced and amplified through live streaming, enables the individual to satisfy his pathological grandiosity and insatiable need for worship, rationalize his abusive, manipulative, and sexually deviant behaviors as sacred, or part of a deeper teaching, performative, sacred hypocrisy, project his internal paranoia and aggression onto external enemies, e.g., viewers as CIA, Mossad, mud dwellers, exert coercive control over an audience, deliberately withholding information and gaslighting to maintain his narrative and power, further reinforced by the problematic use of AI to generate self-serving narratives and counter reality-based arguments. compulsively seek validation and attention, escalating behaviors when demands are not met, indicative of a profound emotional dysregulation and dependence on external supply. The consistent pattern of severe interpersonal harm, profound lack of empathy, grandiosity, and paranoid ideation, all expressed and reinforced within the live streaming environment, underscores the critical need for audiences to be wary of any streamer that only shares one side of the story and is not balanced in his or her views, as that can be a red flag to show narcissism at hand. Ultimately, while the desire for a redemption moment for such an individual is understandable, his deep-seated, multifaceted pathologies make it highly improbable that he will be able to be the hero of his own story, instead succumbing to his own narcissism to his own detriment. It would take a coordinated effort from his support system as well as the general public to place his live stream on extinction, withholding the reinforcement of engagement such as comments, replies, arguments, or debates within his live stream or his Discord channel. It should be noted here that it is imperative to the safety of the streamer and the general public that his stream should still be monitored to ensure that new victims cannot be acquired and that potential enablers are stymied. This digital persona's alter becomes a chilling testament to how unaddressed and amplified psychological disorder can manifest as a pervasive and harmful pseudo-spiritual cult of personality. Fin.